Welcome to Sighted to Sightless, the podcast that takes a candid look at the life of me, a blind guy who was once sighted but is now sightless. With me today is my host, Clint,
Hello, that's me.
obviously, and I, of course, am Richard.
So, we're going to start this podcast off by talking a little bit about Richard and myself and our backgrounds. So, obviously, I'm sighted, being best friends with Richard for a long time now. He has done a lot for me, my family, more than I could ever repay him. It definitely has been interesting to be friends with somebody that is completely blind. I'm just gonna be honest with you in this podcast. That's what we're here to do. Some things that he does amaze me and amaze a lot of people, and I really, really appreciate the things that he does because some things that he does are more than a regular sighted person could do. And I have never really been one to separate sighted people from sightless people. Learning all that I have through Richard has given me a new insight on daily life for somebody that is sightless. I enjoy being with him. It's awesome. He he's a normal person to me. And through this podcast, we'll talk about things that have happened, things that could happen, or maybe will happen in the future. And some things that have happened, they happen, yes, sometimes because of my lack of instinct, but also on the other hand, because he, to me, is a normal person. So he could do things just as well as I can, if not better.
Except driving.
We, we haven't got that far yet in our friendship.
I ain't got that drunk yet.
So I'm not sure how far we're going to go with the driving part of it. But yeah, so the background, there's not really much about me. I'm a normal person. I'm married to my wonderful wife,
Yeah,
Shannon.
definitely not to me.
And I do have a son as of right now, the recording of this podcast. He is 11 and his name is Oakley. He is active in 4-H and band in middle school. I moved down here in 2011 because of a house fire in Tennessee.
Because
We
Shannon's that hot.
so we, yeah, okay, yes. Let's say
See, I'm trying to get you some brownie
that.
points.
So yeah, we moved down here in 2011. We've been here for a long time now. We've made some great friendships. And again, like I said, one of the best friendships is Richard. So I'm just a normal, as you would want to say for this podcast, sided person. So now to move on to who all y'all been waiting on, Richard,
Oh,
or like I like to call him, Bubba.
I thought you was getting Shannon in here. I'm Richard, and I've known Clint and Shannon and Oakley for we figured it up what about 6 or 7 times. I think the number changes every time.
I think it was about a year every time we talk about him.
Yeah, I think so. But of course, I am the sightless part of the podcast, and we will get into more about me later in the podcast because that's what we really want the first episode to be about is, us, my story, and there's likely things that I'm going to forget whenever we do this particular podcast because I am getting older and, sometimes things will strike your memory.
He's around 55 for the people that don't know.
That's on a good day. Um, I and you'll hear me say this a lot in podcasts. I'm just me. I really don't think that I'm anything special because I'm going to live my life any way that I want to because that's just who I am. I do a couple other podcasts, the Unseen Critics and the 620 Life podcast. I really don't know how to act since, Clint's gonna be doing or Shannon's gonna be doing most of the editing. So that's a bit unusual for me. Um, but I am 41 years old. I'm a single white male looking for a woman like you. Oh, uh,
Wrong podcast.
yeah.
Sorry, that's a different podcast. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
I do like to joke and have fun and just live my life as normally as possible. This podcast is going to be really hard for me because, and Clint will attest to this. I don't really like talking about myself. Uh,
Oh,
I I'd rather it be about somebody else. I don't mind being mentioned. I don't mind being on the fringes. That's where I prefer to be. But a lot of people I have found seem to think that I'm inspiration. That's likely a whole nother podcast in itself, another episode. But I just live my life and try to be as normal as possible. And people do forget that I can't see. I mean, I don't ever forget it, but they tend to forget it. But just live life, have fun, and what you will find out in this podcast is I'm an open book. Anything anybody wants to know about my life as a blind person, me, myself, any questions that you may have, just ask. It, but when you do ask, I do not get offended. I don't. I mean, I'm sure I have been offended, but it's very hard to do. But just ask, because how if you're gonna know unless you do, right?
that is true. One thing I do want to emphasize on what he said is he will not get offended. um, so I probably should have mentioned this in the backgrounds, but when I first met Bubba, I was a little hesitant at first to ask him a question about him being blonde or sightless. Um, so it was probably I would like to say probably about a month or 2 after we met is when I actually asked him the first question, and once he answered that, it was kinda like people like to say, it was on like Donkey Kong, because then I started asking
Not in
questions
that way. Not in that way. But yeah.
again, a different podcast again. No, but I just started asking questions, one right after another. I mean, just they were all piling up, and he never said stop. He never said don't talk. Please don't ask me this. Please don't ask me that. Or why haven't you asked me this? Why haven't you asked me that? Or do you want to know this or that? He just rolled with the punches and he let me ask. And that's how I learned most of how to be or what a daily life is in Bubba's shoes, being sightless. So, in saying that, that kind of brings us to our next part, which, this is our first one, so we may go a little short, we may go a little long in some pieces of the segment, but, we're going to get familiar with this and we'll get it all kind of smoothed out and know exactly how we're going to do this and what everybody wants to hear, see. So this would be the
I
why
want to
behind.
see lots of stuff.
That was probably not a good term to use, but
No, it really wasn't, but it's okay.
we're gonna talk a little bit about the why behind the podcast. Now, I don't have a lot to do with the why behind the podcast. I am just here to be the sided best friend I could be to Bubba and help him get his story heard. I think it deserves to be heard, to be told. It definitely is informative to people, and it will definitely help people that maybe are scared to ask somebody a question or just to talk to somebody about being silenced or even a disability. There shouldn't be a reason for you to be scared to ask anybody about, how do they do this or why do they do this. And I also, if you have a disability or if you are sightless, don't be ashamed of it. You be you. And that's genuinely from the bottom of my heart. Be you, because I think everybody is unique in their own way, and you can definitely overcome any challenges that you face. And there's always going to be somebody there beside you to help you get through it. And that's kind of why I'm here. He has no problem doing anything on his own. Bubba doesn't, but I'm definitely always going to stand by him and help him in any way possible, and help him prevail more than he already has.
Wouldn't you say I'm definitely unique though?
100%, I would say you are definitely unique. That's the best word I want to use for this podcast.
And
Yes.
and that goes with sighted or sightless people. There's not a lot of people like me. Um,
We went to Sonny's today, by the way, so you're going to see us maybe take a couple drinks of our Sonny's.
yeah, and Sonny, if you'd like to be a podcast sponsor,
Oh, let me show the cup while you're saying this. Okay, go ahead. Say it now while I'm showing the cup.
Sonny's, I'm getting hungry again. Uh, but I'm definitely not your typical person, nor am I your typical blind person. I don't like the term visually impaired because impaired prior to me implies that you have some vision. I'm as about as blind as a bat that's had both eyes knocked out. You know,
I
um,
got to laugh at that.
well,
It's
that's one
one
of
of my
my
favorite
favorite
shows.
shows.
I
I
told
told
you
you
a
a joke
joke
about
about
the
the
bat,
bat.
hadn't I?
No, but I'm sure everybody wants to hear it, so go
Huh?
for it.
Well, this was told to me. There's these cave full of bats, and it gets time for supper, and one of them, can't see so well, but the three of them fly out every night, same time. Well, they come back, no blood, they're hungry. They go out the second night, come back, no blood, they're still hungry. Come back the third night. Two of them couldn't find anything, and the third one, whose name was Frank, it's covered in blood. And the other two are like, hey man, where'd you get all the blood? And Frank goes, you see that tree down there? Yeah, man. I didn't. It's hilarious. It's cheesy, but hilarious. But I'm definitely not your typical person, whichever side of the fence you want to look at it at for the name of the podcast, because I'm simple. I mean, I'm humble. I think Clint would attest to that. I don't ask anything of anybody unless it's transportation related, usually, or if the computer starts messing up and my screen reader isn't talking to me. But I
Well,
will.
unless Elon Musk wants to give him a Tesla, he'll take that too, so he can
Oh
actually
yeah,
drive. So, Elon,
Tesla
if you're
sponsor.
listening, we appreciate it.
But anything you want to know, just ask, and you'll hear me say that a lot because, like Clint said, I don't get offended. The only stupid question is the ones you don't ask, because otherwise you'll never know.
So, questions. That is going to be another part of our podcast and probably the biggest part of the podcast. Excuse me. Bubba doesn't really like talking about himself,
At all.
but he does answer questions and he loves answering questions. So that's why we're going to pull this into the podcast, the questions that you ask, because one, you may not want to ask him to his face, which is okay. That's fine.
Yeah, it is rather ugly. Uh,
But also, it makes it easier for him to be able to explain things because he can't just, he could just sit here and rattle off all day about being sightless. He could tell you everything and anything about it, but he doesn't know specifically what you, as a viewer or the listener, whatever platform you're on, hearing this, want to know. So we'll start this podcast off with a question, and it's going to come from Shannon. So are you ready for this, Bubba? Are you ready for this big question?
are you ready? Yeah, I am.
So this is actually a really good question. So I've read into this a little bit and I've thought about it myself. It's kind of a two-parter, so it's a very interesting two-parter actually. And I'm not sure, actually that I've ever even asked you this question myself. So that's awesome.
That'd be one of the few, wouldn't
Exactly,
it?
exactly. I'm surprised this person beat me to it. All right. So, what is the hardest thing you have had to do since you became blind?
It's easy, but it's difficult for me to do, is ask for help. I've always been raised to be independent, to do things yourself, and that's just, ingrained in me. But there again, there's times when I do have to ask for help because of transportation and, some visual things. Now, up until, I'd probably say last year, whenever, or 2 years ago when mama got really sick, I didn't have to worry about transportation. But lost her earlier this year, and that brought in, me having to ask for help. Not that Clint and Shannon and anybody else wouldn't have done it, to help out anyway, but and I like to say it's not pride, but at the same time, it is pride in the fact that I think I can do everything myself because Cody and I have put the floor in my house. Yeah, I put the wood down. Me and him put some tile down. It's coming up now, but it still looks like I laid it. I mean, it probably looked like I laid it anyway, but at least they were all the same color. Um, but the toughest thing for me was to ask for help because I don't like feeling that I'm putting other people out. Like for instance, if Shannon has asked me before, do you need anything from town? I could use a couple things, or do you need to go to town? No, then it's not important. For me to get the stuff. It's just one of those things that it's just really hard for me to do.
And I get that. I do. And I also see where it's hard for some sighted people to ask for help as well. On that end, my father,
Hmm.
um, when our house burned down in 2011, it was a total loss, and once, if anybody's ever went through it or doesn't know about it, or either way, you have to, most people ask for assistance from the Red Cross. So when we had to walk up them steps to Red Cross to ask them for the assistance after everything had happened, that was probably one of maybe three times in my whole life that I've ever seen my father break down and cry because he had to go ask for help. So I know being sighted, it was rough to do that. I can only imagine, how rough it is being sightless to go through that because you fully are dependent on the person you're asking. At least if you're sighted, you know who you're asking or what you're getting, what you're receiving, I should say. But you're
Right.
you're just kind of not seeing. You just fully depend on whatever that other person is doing or saying.
Exactly. You're relying on them. You're putting your hands in, or your life in their hands. And we already see what I did whenever I had my life in my own hands. I don't know that I want somebody else's hand in control of it, but it's very difficult, sighted or sightless, to have to ask for help. But that's a hard thing to get over, though, my dude.
So how once you became sightless and once you did or you do have to ask for assistance or help, what helped you overcome, having to ask for that? What helped you overcome it to learn how to say, you know what, I need help. I mean, I need help.
The fact that it's a long walk to Walmart from the house.
But you know what? That's a funny joke. But if you had to do it, I know you would. If
Uh-huh.
anybody had to do it, I know
Oh,
you
I
would.
would. You know, but that's part of it. That and here where we are, there's not a because we just got Walmart delivery like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you're right.
so up until then. let's see, Monday will be 24 years. So for basically 22 years, I've had to rely on other people to carry me there. Yeah, it's gotten easier over time, but that's still one of the things that really bothers me. Because like I said, I hate feeling like I'm putting anybody else out. Even though I know I'm not, or they tell me I'm not, it's like you're lying to my face, and I can't even see if you got your eyes crossed. I mean, it's just really, really hard for me.
Hmm. And I could see that, but
I can't
that will he'll be here forever, folks. He'll be here forever. Um,
forever young. Oh no, forever blind.
there you go.
I'll
That's a better
be
one.
forever blind.
So that's interesting because I would think in my mind, being sighted, obviously, but in my mind, if I was sightless, I would feel like more of the physical would be the hardest to overcome. But you're saying it's kind of the mental part of it is the way I'm taking it.
What do you mean by physical be?
So, I asked you what the hardest thing was.
Mm-hmm.
You said it was the asking for help,
Yeah.
which to me is a mental thing. You're thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, I've
But
known I've been mental for many years
not
now. I ain't making no bones about that.
no. A physical, as in, learning to walk by yourself or to, you know, walk with somebody. I just feel like you would say that was the hardest. But
No.
again, you're saying the mental part of it, like the help, the mental
Yeah. For
was
me,
hardest.
yeah. For
That's just
me.
very interesting to me, honestly.
I mean, I think, granted, I had to learn how to walk again, but it really didn't take that long. But you don't need your eyes to walk. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I do. I just, and I'm glad, Sided Silas, that's the name
Yeah.
of the podcast. And this is where, it really comes into effect, for me and probably a lot of other people as well. They're thinking first off, when you lose your eyesight, what
Hmm.
am I going to do? Who am I going to see? How am I going to see? What am I going to see? Anything, nothing
Well,
at
if you're
all.
sightless, you ain't gonna see nothing.
Well, that's for another. Hopefully, somebody asks that question. What do you see? Because I know the answer to that. I know that answer
Nada.
because some people might be surprised with your true answer though. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll let somebody ask that question at another time.
Sean will.
Yeah.
Love
Yes.
you, Sean. We
But
can edit that out, right?
that, so again, like I said, it's very interesting that you said that the mental factor plays a lot into it.
Yeah.
Um,
And something else about this podcast, Clint or say something or I'll say something that'll probably get us on another tangent. This conversation is going to be, or podcast is going to be like conversationally. It's not going to be just him ask a question, me give an answer, him ask something else. It's conversation because I mean we are best friends. I mean he's like the brother I never had, and Shannon's like the sister I wanted to forget. Uh, but
we'll definitely edit that one out.
yeah, oh yeah, she's gonna do the editing, ain't she?
Yep.
Shannon, he's holding like his foot over my bad toe. The knee that you tore up with the car. Yeah,
I just want to let you know, buddy. She definitely knows that my foot could not reach that high. I'm just letting you know.
especially after all that barbecue.
Exactly.
But I want it to be laid back and conversational.
After he said barbecue, we're gonna plug him one more time. I'm holding the cup. Go ahead.
Uh, Sunny's barbecue. I've lost weight. I need to gain it back.
That's a good plug. That's a good one. They might like that one. We'll get there one day, folks. We'll get there
Yeah,
one day.
we'll get Timmy's barbecue.
That's all right. That's all right. So it's funny actually. I'm actually laughing because it's
When
funny
you're
that
around me, you will.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But you mentioned, Sonny's barbecue and food. So what I'm kind of embarrassed of this really, but why don't you just tell them that story? about when we was at Steak and Shake that one time.
Ah, the day that PepsiCo ran out of soda. We had been at Wild Adventures. Was it all day? It was at least half a day.
No, I think this was one of our all day trips actually.
Yeah, it probably was. And we were thirsty. Well, we got hungry. Was this after? This wasn't after the Vanilla Ice concert, which was absolutely horrible. I will never go to another one. I hope he melts and turns out like Frosty the Snowman in the first movie. But it was a long day. We were thirsty, so we pulled in the Steak and Shake, and none of us were really too hungry. We wanted something to drink more than anything else.
Oh, definitely more than anything else, a drink.
Well, there were four of us there. Three of us still wanted something to drink because Clint got the waitress to bring out like the pitcher. I mean, it's probably a half-gallon pitcher.
It probably was. And to be fair and to be honest, I did not ask her to bring out the pitcher. I had asked for one drink, and then I told her to bring me a refill with no ice. And I'm sure you people have done it. I'm sure everybody has done it at least once. Come on now. Please be with me on this. So instead of
I don't see
bringing,
anybody's hand raised.
instead of
You're
bringing,
going down, sir.
instead of bringing a glass with ice with a drink in it and an extra glass with it, they bring a whole pitcher.
Now, since he asked me to tell the story and he wants to tell it, Clint took his straw out of his cup and put it into the pitcher. Now, there's this old Pepsi long neck commercial where the kid's drinking out of the Pepsi with a straw and sucks himself into the bottle. We had to hold Clint down so he didn't suck himself into the pitcher. We still left there thirsty, but it was quite the adventure of the wild.
It was, it was.
I don't know if it was as bad as Ruben though.
Ruben
You're listening to it too.
I'm, it was pretty bad. Love you, Ruben. I'm sorry if you listen to this, but I
I'm
got to,
sorry,
I got called out, so you're going to have to get called out too. So we have this friend named Ruben, and
Ruben.
Ruben.
Ruben James. Anyway,
So we was at Wild Adventures with him one day. We took him there to Wild Adventures. He bought a, was it bring a friend or
yeah.
did he buy a pass?
He bought the pass and got the souvenir cup
Okay,
with
yeah.
free refills or
So
something.
this is back when we was going pretty regularly, during concert time and everything. And Ruben decided to go with us after buying season passes. Well, you get the souvenir cup, and if any of you do not know about Wild Adventures, when you get the souvenir cup, you get free refills. So, needless to say, Ruben took advantage of that. So when you first walk into Wild Adventures,
Oh,
you
they
get
lost money.
yeah, you get your souvenir cup and your pass when you first buy the passes. So he got a souvenir cup and got a pass. And usually when you first get there, you get your drink, and you start walking. Well, we got there, we refilled our drinks, and we started walking. Well, probably what, 10 foot?
I don't know that he made it that far.
After we made it that far, Ruben said, "Man, I'm thirsty. Can we get another drink?" Oh yeah, just thinking he's thirsty. That's fine. We'll stop and get another drink. About another, I'd say. I
Uh,
mean, honestly, let me
th-
not
th-
lie.
this is how it went down, though. We got in there. Ruby got his thing, and say the price is $100 for the Wild Adventure Pass. When Ruben left that day, Wild Adventures owed him like $200 or $300 because we walked by this little thing, and it was like, "Damn, I'm thirsty." Okay, I can take something to drink. Well, we take 3 steps out of the little restaurant cafe thing. Damn, I'm thirsty. Okay, maybe he's got a hole in his cup, or I don't know. 5 feet later, I hear, dang, did he just clink that drink? I think he did. Well, we kept on walking, and keep in mind, I am the sightless part of this podcast. I said, "Where's Reuben?" "Oh, he's at the drink fountain." "Oh, okay." And then Reuben walks up. "Oh, I'm still thirsty." So he takes his little empty cup, goes back, gets another drink. I bet he went through probably 10 or 15 that day.
Or if not more.
Yeah, I mean, that I'm aware of. But love you, Reuben. It's been a minute.
So that That's just that's two stories that you'll hear of many. We really want you to get kind of get an insight on Sided and Silas, because we both definitely are unique in our own ways. The most obvious being Sided and Silas again, but I love him. I definitely am glad I met him when I did. I couldn't ask for a better friend, somebody that I would consider a brother to me. He does lot for me, lot for my family, and we
And
couldn't
pardon
ask.
the pun, I don't see it because I'm just me.
And you'll hear that a lot as well, that I'm just me. He loves saying that for some reason.
Because it is just me. Yeah, me and Clint shared an anniversary a couple weeks ago.
So we all recording this podcast a day before my birthday. So my birthday wish to everybody out there, everybody watching this or listening to it, I would love for your feedback, questions, comments, share it for us, help us get the word out there. We're definitely wanting to take this, as far as we can. We want to get Bubba's story out there. I definitely want to be here beside him all the way to help him as far as I can.
He's trying to butter me up so I mess with his candle for his birthday. I'm not doing that.
It's a great story. It is. He's a very unique person. He's admirable. I definitely look up to him because of the things he does and that he can do. He's taught me a lot that I didn't think that I could do, and he pushed me through it. Any Again, any questions that you have, any comments, any feedback, please, please, please send it in. We're gonna have a Facebook page up here soon. Hopefully, by the time this podcast, excuse me,
This
podcast,
podcast, this pod
podcast.
crap. I mean,
Yeah, I guess it's one whatever word I guess whatever word you want to call it, as long as you're watching or listening.
I don't care.
Exactly. Messages on our Facebook page that's hopefully up by the time this podcast is uploaded.
Decided to sightless at gmail.com.
The email, we're gonna have a TikTok. We're gonna try to make a TikTok out of it. We're gonna post it on YouTube, and hopefully everything's gonna be tagged the same, sided to sideless. I don't think there's anybody else doing anything like that.
Fewer than 1,000 posts,
Yeah.
according to Facebook.
So hopefully we can get that started and get this thing going. We appreciate y'all watching this. We appreciate you listening, and we appreciate you in advance for any questions, comments, or feedback that you have about this. Um, and hopefully we'll record our next one. Hopefully in a couple days or by the end of the week, we're for sure gonna have one each week, 100%. But we're in the process of maybe trying to get two a week because we are getting a lot of questions in already, just from local friends and family, actually.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get a lot more. We'd love to expand actually through the states. I would love to
Yeah,
hear,
that'd be awesome.
to get other people in from out of state, people that are solid or people that are solid just want to hear how somebody else that solid deals with things. That would be neat.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of my stuff that I do know, I've learned through experience through the years,
Yeah,
and maybe that'll help somebody else. Because I mean, like Clint says, I do have a story to tell, and I do things differently, but they work for me, and that's really all I care about.
yeah, and that's getting to know somebody else solace is really it's really interesting because Bubba has introduced me to a group of his friends, and they're mostly all sightless, and they're awesome. I mean, it's a trip to talk to them, a trip to listen to them. I mean, I can't wait. Maybe one day, hopefully, I get to meet some of them because
You don't
they're
want to meet Jesse. He's
Jesse.
got bad body odor.
Jesse, I know you're gonna listen. You deserve that. I just want you to know that. Uh, no, but they all seem like a bunch of great guys, and I would really love to meet them and hear their stories as well. Because I have definitely invested a lot, in helping Bubba and learning a lot about him. So I know the strengths and the weaknesses of where I can help him in any way I can without him having to ask. Because that is, again, like we talked about in this episode, that's probably one of the hardest things he's had to do is ask for help. So I try not to make him ask too much.
because he knows how I despise it. I mean, I honestly, Clint, you've been around me enough. I loathe asking for
Mhm.
help.
I agree. I could agree more. But that was the question. You answered it today. That was
Huh?
awesome. Good job.
So what do you say? Let's tell a little bit about me.
A little bit about you.
Yeah, about my story.
Um,
Miss Donna asked.
yeah, Miss Donna. So Miss Donna asked for us to tell a little bit about Bubba's story. It was a question that she had asked, and
Or really
Miss
made suggestion about.
suggestion, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
So
will
we're not gonna do it, Miss Donna. No.
I will tell you, if you're listening or you're watching, Miss Donna, that is a great question. I love it, and I know he enjoys it. And like we have said in the podcast, he hates talking about himself. But that is a very, in my opinion, I'm sure he'll agree, that's a very lengthy answer.
It is.
So he could probably tell you a little bit about it today, but I think to tell you the full story, I think that's going to take this podcast. That's why we're here, is to tell of a story, and the questions you ask to help tell the story is where we're going to get at. But
Uh,
Bubba, we've talked about it, and he wants to tell you just a little bit about his story before we log off, sign off. I don't know what you would want to say on that. Log off, sign off.
GTFO. I mean, 'cause I'm getting hungry again.
No,
Sonny's.
all the okay, signs. There you go. Them again. We're gonna plug them every time, every video. Not really. It's just gonna be whoever we eat that day.
But seriously, if somebody does want to sponsor this, to help us pay for advertisement,
Advertisement,
you know,
maybe better equipment. Not like
yeah,
it's got to be big equipment, but right now we'll just be truthful with you. I'll be truthful with you. We just picked up two tripods, and we're doing this on our 16 Pro Max and
yeah,
15 Pro Max. I've got my AirPods in, and he's got his contraption. I don't know.
fancy cheap headset.
Headset, yeah, I didn't know what you wanted. I was just gonna say contraption. That sounded better to me, but
Contraption takes too many syllables. But and with me, it's like I told Clint, it's like I will tell my story, but I ain't putting any money into this podcast because I mean, you know me, Clint. I'm on a fixed income, so you have to be really careful, especially whenever you have to save up for big purchases. Because I'm trying to get a Tesla, you know.
Elon, Elon.
But I do hate talking about myself, so the questions are gonna help because I'm always putting other people before me. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I would definitely agree about that.
I
Yes,
mean,
100%. He
'cause-
wouldn't go out with me the other day, because I just wanted to hang out. I told him, "Hey, let's go hang out." Well, when I called him at first, I heard him say, "Hey, Jade is sick," which is his puppy, and you'll probably learn a little bit about her throughout the podcast. But
the
her name
evil
is
little dog that she is.
Yeah, her name is Jade, and he was telling me that she was sick and she wasn't feeling good. So really, in the back of my mind, instantly, I knew he wasn't going to say yes to what I was about to ask him. But on the off chance, I asked him anyways. I was like, "Hey, what are you going to do today? Do you feel like just getting out and hanging out? Not go anywhere specific, just get out and hang out." And he told me no. He said, "Jade's not feeling good. I'm just going to sit here, stay with her, be with her and make sure that she's okay. And if she needs anything, I can get up and get it for her." So, and that's just an animal, you know. And that not saying anything wrong with animals. I'm just saying, most people would be like, well, I'll make sure to water and feed her, and then we'll be back later and I'll check on her again.
Yeah,
You know,
that's not
but
me.
he said no. This is my responsibility. I'm going to just stay here and I'll just catch you later. So he puts anybody and everything,
Above me.
above him, first, I should say. Put him first.
And and I'm not, and Clint knows me. I'm not gonna toot my own horn. I don't do that. But like y'all's anniversary, I tried my best to get out of going with y'all, didn't I?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, because while we're family, and I firmly believe that, that's a married couple's special time. To I might not better say it like that. to spend. I mean, that's their day. But I mean, I'd say that y'all pulled the bad card, and we're gonna get Oakley to ask me. Uh-huh. 'Cause I can't say no to that young. But it's to me, Mama raised me to put other people first, things that you care about first, and that's just the way that I've lived my life. It's like we said, y'all will hear this a lot. It's just me. It's who I am, and there's really. Can you think of another way to answer that? I mean, because that's been me ever since you've known me.
That's yeah. I mean, I would say that's 100%. That's you're right on that. And I think that answers a little bit about your background for Donna too. That gives her a little bit background on you is, you're
Yeah,
gonna put everything number one before you. I mean, Bubba's always gonna be number two, or Richard,
yeah,
however you're thinking in your mind that day. He's always gonna be number two, number three. It doesn't matter. Whatever needs to be first is gonna be first, and it's never gonna be you.
yeah. I mean, that's just the way I am, And come to think about it, I think we would call that segment the Donna diatribe. I don't know what diatribe means, but it sounds really nice and fancy.
Our child means anything bad, we're sorry. We did not know that. I just want
Blame it on
everybody.
Shannon.
Yeah, we
Like,
did not know anything about that. Okay, sorry about that.
but since we're going to be answering stuff about me every week, I think that's a good segment to have.
I agree. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
See, this is how we roll with the punches, and I don't get that with people either. I roll with life. Wouldn't you say that too? Like,
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that one.
I
We
mean, yes.
he definitely doesn't walk with life. If you can tell by looking at us, he definitely rolls with life.
Are you
Just
calling
kidding.
me fat?
Just kidding, buddy. Just kidding.
Are you calling me fat?
No, no, no.
Well, if I am fat, it's because
Hey,
of Sonny's.
honest.
But I mean, I don't know how to say it, but why get upset about stuff? I just roll with it because you can make a scene and you still don't get what you want to do, or you can roll with it and you're not getting what you want to do. So why make a fuss about it?
I agree with that. And I think a lot of that, I have learned a lot from that. I've always what I like to call a patient person. But I think after, being around you and kind of seeing how you deal with situations, I became more patient and laid back and kind of just, you know, um, roll with, like you say, roll with it.
Yeah,
Obviously, I can roll too, so roll with it.
roll with it.
Not lean with it, rock with it, roll with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, okay. You was going
well,
somewhere else with
you gotta make fun of.
it.
I'll make fun of me enough. What else we got to cover though, my dude? Let me see the notes.
Oh, okay. Here's our notes. As if I can see, right here's the notepad. So he's gonna read the notes. Can you read? You see me?
It says you're going to give me a check in the amount of $10,000.
Everybody that was watching that just seen me hold the notepad in the air
Well, I didn't
as
see
you was
it.
reading it. As you was reading it.
They don't see the back page where I was reading though. That's that hidden print, that sightless print.
That sightless print. That's that invisible ink print that only he can see, I guess.
Exactly. It's not in Braille either because I don't read Braille. Although I do know
Oh
how to.
no, no, no. That's another podcast too. We're gonna go with that. All right, that's another podcast.
What else we got to go over though?
I think for today and for our first podcast, I think that covered everything for this
It
one.
everything,
Everything.
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 What do they get for paying zero money to watch this?
Knowledge and insight.
Anything they want to ask.
To ask. That's right. To ask. Comment. Please give us some questions, and we will definitely get to them in a timely manner, or at least as fast as we can.
Yeah,
Again, we like to stress that this is new to us, at least this kind of podcast, conversational podcast back and forth together, because again, we are working with limited, supplies, which is okay. And we'll do this forever if we have to, like this. It doesn't matter to us. We're just here to get the word out and hopefully let other people learn more about sightless people or help sightless people get a hold of Bubba and kind of communicate back and forth and learn from each other, which would be awesome too.
Yeah, it's all about sharing the knowledge. And I have to admit, I think you did pretty good.
No, thanks. I know I messed up a little bit, but we'll work out the
Oh, no, you messed up a lot.
okay, a
But,
lot, a lot, a lot. Okay, but we'll work out the kinks, and we'll get there. I promise. We'll get there.
uh, but, Clint's really nervous, as y'all can probably tell.
Yeah.
Um, I've been doing podcasts for a while, and again, you'll hear me say you can ask Clint all you want. I don't get nervous either. I I don't see the people out there watching it. Everybody else says, just picture the crowd naked and it'll make you feel at ease. Nowadays, there's some things I'm glad I can't see. Let's just put it that way. You know.
He has told me that before. He definitely has told me that before.
But we'll cut on out of here. Just remember though, whenever you live life, make sure that you're living it and you're not just alive. But that will be it. Remember to rate, review, share, and since I'm from the South and we used to have pigs, I'll say subscribe.
And also, just to piggyback off of that, you get the hog reference.
You're just trying to give me your
Piggyback,
sausage.
piggyback off of that. Um, something that we had pitched around. We didn't really talk about it too much, but we did pitch around. You know, you can ask Bubba any question you want to, and he will not be ashamed to, answer it. But you can also send questions in about us. Like how do
I put up with him.
how does he put up with me? How do I put up with him?
Yeah.
Or like how do I deal with taking him everywhere? I don't know. I don't want to say too many questions because I don't want to give them all away and somebody just re-ask me. You know what I mean?
But until they ask, we're not going to answer it.
That's true. That's true.
See what I did there? I'm trying to get in the question.
Yeah, gotcha.
See, I know how to work the audience. I have 2 listeners on my podcast.
Well, hopefully we can make it 3 after this one. At least 3.
Well, they say it's not the size of the podcast that matters. It's just the audience that you reach.
There you go.
See? That was kind of no, not confound.
Confucius?
No, profound.
Profound. Okay, profound.
Except I'm not a pro. Is there anything else we want to go over real quick? How long we've been going? Because this is not a professional podcast.
Actually, we've been going for almost 50 minutes now. So we actually done really good because we're trying to constrain it, not make it too long, not ramble on too much, trying to, keep it around the hour mark is what we're trying to do. Let us, again, we can't say it enough. Please, leave us some feedback and tell us, hey, do we need to make it longer? Do we make it shorter? Because again, this is our first podcast together as a conversational piece. And we would love to know what all of you think, the listeners, the viewers, what you would like to hear more of or see more of.
Or less of.
Or less of, all of the above, really. This is kind of a viewer-based podcast is what we're wanting to be.
Yes.
Because
without y'all, we have no podcast.
That's exactly
Because I'm
right.
not going to talk about myself just to talk about myself.
That's exactly right. And if we don't do this podcast, we would just sit at home.
That's what I do anyway.
What we do anyways. Yeah, that's yeah, so it really wouldn't matter.
Yeah,
but that's all we got for real. Yeah, I think we're good.
But be sure to ask your questions again. No question is off limits. I am the open book, but unlike most people, it's definitely true whenever I say it. Some podcasts will be kind of short, some may be rather lengthy, depending on the question, because I may have to explain to get you to a point to understand it from my perspective, which is, if you don't know it by now, the total lack of sight.
So, I guess for now, I'm Clint.
And I'm Richard.
I'll see you.
And I'll hear you
later.